The name France comes from Latin Francia, which literally means land of the Franks. Originally it applied to the whole empire of the Franks, extending from southern France to eastern Germany. Modern France is still called Frankreich in German and similar names in some other Germanic languages, which means Frankreich, the realm of the Franks. Background: Gaul. Before being named France, the land was called Gaul. This name continued to be used even after the beginning of the reign of the Franks kings Clovis I, Charles Martel, Pepin the Short, and Charlemagne. In fact, for as long as the cultural elites of Europe used Latin predominantly, the name Gallia continued to be used alongside the name France. In English usage, the words Gaul and Gaulish are used synonymously with Latin Gallia, Gallus and Gallicus. However, the similarity of the names is probably coincidental. The English words are borrowed from French Gaul and Gaulois, which appear to have been borrowed themselves from Germanic Walla, the usual word for the non-Germanic speaking peoples. The Germanic W is regularly rendered as gupigram in French, and the diphthong O is the regular outcome of L before a following consonant. Gaul. A Gaul can hardly be derived from a Latin Gallia, since G would become J before A, and the diphthong O would be incomprehensible. The regular outcome of Latin Gallia would have been *J in French. Today, in modern French, the word Gaul has disappeared and is only used in a historical context. The only current use of the word is in the title of the leader of the French bishops, the Archbishop of Lyon, whose official title is Primate of the Gauls. Gaul is in the plural in the title, reflecting the three Gallic entities identified by the Romans. The adjective Gaulois is still sometimes used when a French person wants to stress some idiosyncrasies of the French people entrenched in history, such as nos ancêtres les Gaulois, a phrase sometimes used in French when one wants to assert his own identity. During the Third Republic, the authorities often referred to Notre Nation Gaulois, a case in which the adjective Gaulois is used with a positive connotation. The word Gallicism is used sometimes in linguistics to express a specific form to the French language. In English, the word Gaul is never used in a modern context. The adjective Gallic is sometimes used to refer to French people, occasionally in a derisive and critical way, such as Gallic pride. The coq Gaulois is also a national symbol of France, as for the French Football Federation. Astérix Le Gaulois is a popular series of French comic books, following the exploits of a village of indomitable Gauls. In Greek, France is still known as Gamma Alpha Lambda Lambda Iota Alpha. Francia under the reign of the Franks kings Clovis I, Charles Martel, Pepin the Short, and Charlemagne. The country was known as Kingdom of Francia. At the Treaty of Verdun in 843, the Frankish Empire was divided in three parts: West Francia, Middle Francia and East Francia. The rulers of Francia Orientalis, who soon claimed the imperial title and wanted to reunify the Frankish Empire, dropped the name Francia Orientalis and called the realm the Holy Roman Empire. The kings of Francia Occidentalis successfully opposed this claim and managed to preserve Francia Occidentalis as an independent kingdom, distinct from the Holy Roman Empire. The Battle of Bouvines in 1214 definitively marked the end of the efforts by the Holy Roman Empire to reunify the old Frankish Empire by conquering France. Since the name Francia Orientalis had disappeared, there arose the habit to refer to Francia Occidentalis as Francia only. only, from which the word France is derived. The French state has been in continuous existence since 843, with an unbroken line of heads of state since the first king of Francia Occidentalis to the current president of the French Republic. Noticeably, in German, France is still called Frankreich, which literally means Reich of the Franks. In order to distinguish it from the Frankish Empire of Charlemagne, France is called Frankreich, while the Frankish Empire is called Frankenreich. The name of the Franks itself is said to come from the Proto-Germanic word *frankon, which means javelin, lance. Another proposed etymology is that Frank means the free men, based on the fact that the word Frank meant free in the ancient Germanic languages. However, rather than the ethnic name of the Franks coming from the word Frank, it is more probable that the word Frank comes from the ethnic name of the Franks, the connection being that only the Franks, as the conquering class, had the status of freemen. In a tradition going back to the 7th century chronicle of Fredegaire, the name of the Franks itself is taken from Francio, one of the Germanic kings of Sicambri, c. 61 BCE, whose dominion extended all along those lands immediately joining the west bank of the Rhine River, as far as Strasbourg and Belgium. This nation is also explicitly mentioned by Julius Caesar in his notebooks on the Gallic War. The name of the former French currency, the franc, comes from the words engraved on the coins of the Frankish king, Rex Francorum, meaning king of the Franks, or roi des Francs in French. France. In most of the Latin languages, France is known by the word France, or any of its derivatives, for example Francia in Italian and Spanish. In most of the Germanic languages, France is known as the historical land of the Franks, for example Frankreich in German, Frankreich in Dutch, Frankreich in Swedish and Norwegian, Frankreich in Danish. Meanings of the name France. The name France can have 4 different meanings which it is important to distinguish in order to avoid ambiguities. Its origin is the Germanic word Frank, which means free, and is also a male name. Political meaning. In a first meaning, France means the whole French Republic. In that case, French refers to the nationality, as it is written on the French ID card, nationalité française. Geographical meaning. In a second meaning, France refers to metropolitan France only, meaning mainland France. Historical meanings. In a third meaning, France refers specifically to the province of Ile-de-France, which historically was the heart of the royal domain. This meaning is found in some geographic names, such as French Brie and French Vexin. French Brie, the area where the famous Brie cheese is produced, is the part of Brie that was annexed to the royal domain, as opposed to Champagne Brie, which was annexed by Champagne. Likewise, French Vexin was the part of Vexin inside Ile-de-France, as opposed to Normand Vexin, which was inside Normandy. This meaning is also found in the name of the French language, whose literal meaning is language of Ile-de-France. It is not until the 19th and 20th centuries that the language of Ile-de-France indeed became the language of the whole country France. In modern French, the French language is called le français, while the old language of Ile-de-France is called by the name applied to it according to a 19th century theory on the origin of the French language, le francien. In a fourth meaning, France refers only to the Pays de France, one of the many pays of Ile-de-France. French provinces are traditionally made up of several pays, which are the direct continuation of the pagi set up by the Roman administration during antiquity. The province of Ile-de-France is thus made up of several pays, Pays de France, Parisis, Herapoi, French Vexin, and so on. Pays de France is the extreme extremely fertile plain located immediately north of Paris, which supported one of the most productive agriculture during the Middle Ages and was responsible for the tremendous wealth of the Kingdom of France before the 100 Years' War, making possible the emergence of the Gothic art and architecture which spread all over Western Europe. Pays de France is also called Plain de France. Its historic main town is Saint-Denis, where the first Gothic cathedral in the world was built in the 12th century, and inside which the kings of France are buried. Pays de France is now almost entirely built up, being but the northern extension of the Paris suburbs. This fourth meaning is found in many place names, such as the town of Voici in France, on whose territory is located Charles de Gaulle Airport. The name of the town literally means Voici in the Pays de France, and not Voici in the country France. Another example of the use of France in this meaning is the new Stade de France, which was built near Saint-Denis for the 1998 Football World Cup. It was decided to call the stadium after the Pays de France, to give it a local touch. In particular, the mayor of Saint-Denis made it very clear that he wanted the new stadium to be a stadium of the northern suburbs of Paris and not just a national stadium which happens to be located in the northern suburbs. The name is intended to reflect this, although few French people know this story and the great majority associates it with the country's name. Other names for France. In Hebrew, France is called. In Maori, France is known as Wiwi, derived from the French phrase oui,